You can draw this in Procreate. During this tutorial, we are going to create this stylized landscape together. And you won't be needing any experience with drawing or with Procreate at all, because I will be guiding you through every single step. All you need is a canvas of 2300 pixels by 3000 pixels and the color profile set to sRGB. What you'll also need is the color palette, which I have linked in the description in case you want to use the exact same colors as I'm using during this tutorial. And you'll need some free brushes, which you can get through freefromflow.com. So if you are ready, go and grab your pencil or your finger and let's get started. The first thing we are going to do is change our background color. Let's go to the layer menu, that's the two little squares over here, and tap background color. And we are going to pick this third color in the third row. Now we are going to grab the monoline brush, which you can find under calligraphy. And we are going to use this first color in the first row. Now make sure that you have the opacity set to 100% and I have the size set to 10%. Now we are going to draw a circle, and in Procreate that's easy, just draw a circle. It can be wobbly. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick shape, and then tap one finger on the screen to make it snap to a perfectly round circle. And now we are going to fill this circle with color. All you have to do is drag this little circle into your bigger circle and fill it entirely. Next, we will be duplicating the circle. You can go to the layer menu, the two little squares, drag to the left on the layer and tap duplicate. Now go to the arrow tool over here. That's the little, well, the move tool, the arrow. Then make sure that here at the bottom you have snapping turned on. And now just drag the circle down. And make sure that you keep seeing these blue vertical lines. That means it's aligned with the top circle. You might need to zoom out a little bit. Let's leave a little bit of space around them. Let's go for something like this. And then just tap the arrow again. Next, we are going to create a new layer. So go to the two little squares and tap the plus for a new layer. And then go to the selection tool. That's the little S-shaped ribbon here. And then set it to rectangle and draw or drag a rectangular shape. Something like this. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then drag in the color into the selection to create a rectangle. And then tap the S-shaped ribbon again to get out of that selection menu. Now we'll want to align this rectangle with the circles. And we are going to do that by going to the arrow tool again, setting it to freeform and making sure that snapping is still turned on. And now we are going to drag the handles on the sides until you see a vertical blue line. And on this side as well, you see the blue line. And now we are going to make sure that the top side is in the center of the circle. So drag this handle until you see that little blue horizontal line. We'll do the same thing here at the bottom. There it is. It's snapping to the blue line. And then tap the arrow again to get out of the menu. Now sometimes you'll still see a little ridge, little edge. Then you'll just have to get back into the move tool menu. And then you might need to tweak it a little bit and move it to the side until you see that blue vertical line again. Now that we have our basic shape, we can merge these layers. You can do that by tapping the top layer and telling it to merge down. And then again, merge down. Sometimes that's easier than pinching. Now let's make sure that this shape is in the center of our canvas by going to the move tool again. Snapping is still turned on. Drag the shape until you see a horizontal and a vertical orange line. And then just tap the arrow again to get out of the menu. Next, we are going to fill our shape with a landscape. We are going to make a new layer by tapping the plus. And then we are going to tap that new layer and turn on clipping mask. You can see that little arrow here, which means it's clipped to this shape. And that means that whatever we draw on this layer 2, it'll only show up inside of our shape that we have just created. And of course, if you have been watching my tutorials, you already know this, but it doesn't hurt to keep repeating it. Because who knows, perhaps you're new to the channel. If you are, then you should know that we have a lot more you can draw this video tutorials on this channel. And if you want to learn more, then be sure to hit subscribe. Now on this new layer, we are going to create a hill. First, let's grab a color. We are going to use this third color in the second row. And we are going to make a swooping line. We'll start here. Make a shape like this. Make sure that you close it. You can't really see it, but you need to close it before you drag in the color to fill this shape. Because when you look at the layer, you can see that we have this blobby shape. It still acts like a regular layer, but whatever is on there, it'll only show up inside of our basic shape. Now we're going to tap layer 1 and then tap the plus for a new layer again. And you can see that it's automatically clipped to our shape. So we are going to work from the front to the back. We are going to grab a new color. We are going to grab the second color in the second row. And we are going to make a hilly shape here. Let's start here. Make sure that you close the shape before you drag in the color. Now another one. Let's tap layer 1 first again, then tap the plus for a new layer, and then grab this color over here, the first color in the second row. We'll start a little bit higher, make a bumpy shape, loop around to close the shape, and then drag in the color. Now we are going to move to the mountains in the background. We are going to tab layer 1 again, then the plus for a new layer, which is automatically clipped. And for the color, we are going to use this 7 color in the first row. And now we are going to create a wavy line from left to right, loop around to close the shape, and then drag in the color. Then we'll make a new layer again, layer 1, tap that first, then tap the plus, and we'll go left on the color palette. We'll go for the 6th color in the first row. We'll start a little bit higher, make a wavy line, loop around, close the shape, and drag in the color. Then we'll make a new layer again. So first tap layer 1, then tap the plus for a new layer, and then grab the 5th color in the first row. Start about here, make a wavy line, close the shape, drag in the color, then a new layer. So first tap layer 1, then tap the plus for a new layer, and then go and grab the 4th color in the first row. Let's start about here, loop around, close the shape, and drag in the color. Then let's make another layer. So first tap layer 1, then tap the plus, and for the color, let's grab the 3rd color in the first row, and then make another wobbly line like this, all the way to the other side, loop around, and close the shape, and then drag in the color. Now, once you have all these hills, it's easy to rearrange them, move them. For instance, we could go to layer 6, then go to the move tool, and while you have it set to snapping, you can just move it down a little bit. And you can do that for each layer, move them around, transform them until you feel like all the layers are in the right place and you have enough space at the top for some clouds that we'll be adding later. So move it down a little bit. I feel like now we have enough space to add some clouds later on. Now the first thing we are going to do is add some texture to each layer. We are going to start with the background layer, layer 1, tap that layer and turn on alpha lock. You can see that little checkerboard pattern around our shape. We won't be able to paint on that checkerboard area. Whatever we paint, it'll only show up on the shape that's already there. We are actually going to do that with each layer. Now you don't have to tap each layer and then turn on alpha lock. You can also use 2 fingers and swipe to the right on the layers to turn on alpha lock for each of these layers. So we'll start with this layer. We are going to grab a brush that is part of the treasure chest brush pack, which you can get for free through freefromflow.com. We are going to use the spackle brush. And for the color, we are going to use the 2nd color in the first row. And the opacity of the brush is set to 100% and I have the size set to 60%. And now we are going to go over this area in the sky, adding these stipples, these spackles, making rounded motions to add some light to the sky. We can also add some of this color, the third color in the first row. Just for some variation, just layer upon layer of color. Let's go a bit lighter again, the second color in the first row. Just a little bit more light here near the horizon. And now we are going to move to the next layer, layer 9. And for the brush, we are going to use the dark noise brush. The opacity of this brush is set to 100% and the size is at 69%. We are going to glaze over the lower half of these hills. Just a little bit. And the color is still set to that second color in the first row. We're going to move to layer 8 over here. And now we are going to use the third color in the first row. And again, glaze over the lower area to add a little bit of light to the bottom, but it's still nicely textured. Then on to the next one, layer 7. This time we are going to use the fourth color in the first row and glaze over that area as well. Then let's move to the front, layer 6. This time we are going to use the spackle brush again. And for the color, we are going to use the fifth color in the first row. And the settings of the brush are still the same. And just glaze over the lower part of the hill. Then let's move to layer 5. For the color, we are going to use the sixth color in the first row first. And we're going to go over the top area just a little bit. And then we are going to move to this last color in the first row, a very dark color, and we are going to glaze over the lower area here. Just a little bit. Now let's move on to the hills. We'll start with layer 4, and for the color, let's start with the second color in the second row. Now let's just go over the lower area. Make these rounded motions, add these nice spackles. And then move on to the third color in the second row. And add even more darker green here at the bottom. And we can even add a little bit of blue. Let's go for the fifth color in the first row. Just add a slight touch of blue. Then move on to the next hill. It's layer 3. First, let's grab the third color in the second row and glaze over the lower area to add a little bit of darker green. Let's also add a little bit of that yellowish color, the first color in the second row. Slightly glaze over the top. And then let's move to the fourth color in the second row. And add some darker color here at the bottom. And again, we can also use some blue. Let's go for the fifth color in the first row. Let's just glaze over slightly. You really don't need to use a lot of pressure. Now let's go to the final layer, layer 2. First, let's grab the fourth color in the second row. And let's just make these rounded motions again, adding this nice texture to this hill. Then let's also grab the lighter green, like the second color and the second row. Glaze over the top with the rounded motions. And then let's also grab the first color in the second row for a lighter touch here at the top, just along the edge. And then also some blue. Let's go for the sixth color in the first row. and add a blue touch here at the bottom. Now let's move on to the clouds. We'll need to go to layer 1, tap that first, and then create a new layer on top by tapping the plus. And now we are going to make a selection. So let's go to the S shape ribbon and set it to freehand. Now we are going to freehand make a selection of clouds. So start here and make a wobbly, bobbly shape. The cloud shape, loop around and close that selection by tapping the little ball here. And then for the color, we are going to use this third color in the third row. We are still using the spackle brush. Make sure to select the brush though, tap the little brush here, and then go over that top area of this cloud selection that you have just created. Make rounded motions and just color that top area. Now we are going to create another cloud. Tap and hold the S shape ribbon and then tap invert here at the bottom. Then tap remove. And now we are going to make another cloud selection. Start about here. Make another wobbly bobbly shape. And then make sure that you loop around here at the top. And then tap the little ball. Now we have a selection that is between these two areas. And tap the brush again, and then make these rounded motions along the top area. And then you can tap the S-shaped ribbon again to turn off the selection. Next up, we are going to create some trees. First, we are going to make trees behind that front hill. So that's layer 2, that's the front hill, and we want the trees to be behind it. So first tap layer 3. And then tap the plus to create a layer in between those layers. For the brush, we are going back to the monoline brush under calligraphy. And for the color, we are going to use this fourth color in the second row. And now we are going to make very simple tree shapes. These will actually just be like ovals. We'll start here, make an oval here, make sure that the shape is closed. Then you can drag in the color to fill it. Make another one here, close the shape, drag in the color, then over here, another one, close the shape, make a smaller one over here, and drag in the color to fill these shapes. Now for some trees in the foreground, we'll have to make a new layer on top of the others. So first tap layer 2 and then tap the plus for a new layer. Since it is on top of the others, it's not automatically clipped to our shape. So we need to tap the layer and turn on clipping mask. Now let's make a tree over here. Just a rounded shape. Another one over here. And a small one here. And a bigger one over here. Then drag in the color to fill these shapes. And now let's add some texture to these trees, just like we did with the hills and with the sky. So first, let's go to layer 11, drag your 2 fingers to the right to turn on alpha lock. And let's go back to the spackle brush. And for the color, let's grab the 7th color in the first row. It's a nice dark blue. Now let's just glaze over the lower left areas of these trees to add a nice little texture. You can also add some lighter green. We can grab this 3rd color in the 2nd row to add a slight touch of lighter green to the top areas here. Then let's move on to layer 12 here. You can drag to the right with 2 fingers again to turn on alpha lock. Let's grab that dark blue again, 7th color in the 1st row. Now let's darken the lower left areas. This one as well. And again, you can add some light. You can add that 3rd color in the 2nd row. A little touch of lighter green to the tops. Now we are going to grab the fine liner brush, which is also part of the treasure chest brush pack. These are all free brushes. And now for the color, we will grab this 5th color in the 2nd row. And we'll start with layer 11. And we are going to add like these simple branches. The opacity of the brush is at 100% and the size is set to 10%. And let's just add these simple branchy shapes. So a line going up and then a few diagonal lines. For this one as well. Vertical line and some diagonal lines attached. And for the little tree here. Then we'll move on to layer 12. For this one, we will add a darker blue. Let's use the 7th color in the 1st row. And again, we'll create some of these branches. Vertical line upward and a few diagonals. And over here. And finally, let's add a little cute house and a road to our scene. We are going to make a layer on top of layer 11. Just tap the plus. And let's grab the monoline brush again, which you can find under calligraphy still. And for the color, let's grab this 3rd color in the 3rd row. And let's zoom in a little bit. We are going to create our little house over here. And first, let's make a rectangular shape. You can hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape. And then you can use edit shape to move these handles around. Go for something like this, drag in a color to fill the shape. And now let's add a triangular shape on top. Again, you can hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape and use edit shaper at the top to change it a little bit. And then drag in the color to fill it. Let's zoom out a little bit. I feel like the house is a little bit big. You can actually go to the move tool, the little arrow, and let's move it down just a little bit. Let's make it a bit smaller. Choose these handles. And go for something like this. Then tap the brush to get out of the menu again. Now let's create a roof. Let's grab this color over here. It's the last color in the 1st row. And let's make a layer on top of this layer by tapping the plus. And let's make a line along the roof here. Hold your pen in place to make it snap to a quick shape. Then let's go in this direction. A line here at the top. And then attach these two to finish our roof. Then drag in the color to fill it. And you can actually use the eraser. If you tap and hold the eraser, you'll set your eraser to the monoline brush as well. Let's make it a little bit smaller, 15%. You can actually cut off parts of the roof, make it more crisp. And we'll make a layer underneath the house layer. So first tap layer 11, then tap the plus. Then for the color, let's grab this color over here, the 6th color in the 1st row. And then let's make a line going down here. And then make sure to close that shape before you drag in the color. And then let's grab this last color in the 1st row again to add another part to the roof. Over here, you can hold your pen in place to make it snap to the quick shape. So now we have a very basic house. I feel like it's a little bit broad. We can actually just select these 3 layers by dragging to the left or to the right actually. That's a better idea. And then go to the arrow tool and we can just use these handles to transform the house. And make it look something like this. Then just tap the arrow again. Now let's add some texture to our house. First, let's go to this roof, tap it, turn on alpha lock, or just use your 2 fingers. Then go and grab the spackle brush. There it is. And let's grab this red. It's the fourth color in the third row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller. Let's go for 25%. And go over this top area. Let's do the same for this layer, layer 50. And add some dark spackles to the side of the house. And let's also use this second color in the first row. Just a tiny bit of light. Then we'll move to layer 13. Tap it, turn on alpha lock. Let's first use this blue that we have just picked, that light blue. Go over the house for a little bit of texture. Then move on to that last color in the first row. Then make the brush smaller. Go for 5%. And then go over this lower area for a little bit of shadow. Now I just want to add a little door. Let's go to the selection tool. Set it to rectangle. And make a rectangular selection over here. Like this. Then drag in this dark color. And then tap the S-shape ribbon again. And there we have a very basic, cute house. And now let's add a little road. Because how else would we get there? Let's create the road on top of layer 2. Let's tap the plus. Now in case you are having issues with the amount of layers, of course, once you are finished editing some layers, you can just merge them. Or if you are afraid you might want to change something later on, then you can always just duplicate your entire Procreate project. So you always have a backup file. But so it's no problem to merge layers once you are happy with them. Now let's grab the monoline brush again, which you can find under calligraphy. And for the color, let's grab this color over here, the first color in the third row. And how we are going to make a zigzaggy line from the house to the front side, a bit like this. Now once you have this line, we are going to duplicate this. You can do that through the layer menu or by swiping down with 3 fingers and tapping duplicate. Now we are going to use the Liquify tool. You can find it under the magic wand. Then go to Liquify. Let's move our canvas up a little bit. Now set your Liquify tool to push, pressure to max, distortion and momentum to none. And let's set the size to 70%. And we are going to push and pull this duplicate road to give that road volume. And make sure that the road is broader, closer to the viewer, and less broad as you move towards the house. You might need to make the brush a little bit smaller to do some little tweaks. So you can really push and pull small parts of the road. And then you can merge these 2 layers, pinch them together. And you can still use the Liquify tool. So go to the magic wand, then to Liquify. And you can tweak both parts of the road. Just make sure that, like I said, the front part close to the viewer. Make sure that that's broader than the road as it moves to the house. Then let's go to the brush. Let's close the shape. Make sure that it's closed here as well before you drag in the color. And of course, this area, it's looking a little bit weird. We are going to fix that. Go to layer 2, tap it, then use select, then tap invert, then go to layer 16 again, tap it and use clear. Now turn on alpha lock by dragging to the right with 2 fingers or tapping the layer and using alpha lock. Now we are going to go back to the spackle brush and we are going to grab a blue color. It's the 5th color in the first row we're going to use. And then let's set the size of the brush to 25% and let's glaze over this lower area a little bit. Then let's use this second color in the third row. Let's make the brush a bit smaller. Let's say 5%. and go over the top area. It's very subtle, but it's adding extra texture to our little road. And that's it. You have created a wonderful stylized landscape. So now you can pat yourself on the back, take a little break before you move on to the next You Can Draw This video tutorial. If you have enjoyed this one, then don't forget to hit that thumbs up or subscribe to the channel. It's a really easy way to support this channel and make sure that we will keep creating these tutorials. An even better way to support the channel and a way to follow even more Procreate tutorials is by checking out our Patreon page. Like I said, you'll find a lot more Procreate tutorials there, also a lot more brushes and a wonderful community. Now that you have finished following this tutorial, don't forget to share your results. You should be proud of it. If you are sharing it on social media, if you are sharing it on Instagram, then tag me in the image, not just in the description, because that way I will be able to find your work and perhaps we'll see your work in the next video, like these awesome results from previous tutorials. Or these amazing results from my friends at Patreon. They are truly the best. Thank you so much, patrons, because they make it possible for us to keep creating these tutorials for you. So shout out to you, patrons. I would like to thank you for watching, and I will see you next time for the next You Can Draw This video tutorial.